Teach me?
First learn stand, then learn fly.
Yeah.
Make your rule, Daniel son, not the mine.
I know what you're trying to do.
I'm trying to free your mind, Neo. But I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through it.
What is the most inspiring thing I ever said to you?
Don't be an idiot. Changed my life.
In today's episode, we'll explore the role of a security operations center analyst. We'll cover what a SOC analyst does, how to become one, career progression, and insights from industry experts. Let's dive in. So what is a security operations center analyst or SOC analyst? A SOC analyst monitors and defends an organization's IT infrastructure from cyber threats. They're crucial in detecting, analyzing, and responding to security incidents.
Yeah, and they're the front line, right? They're the tip of the spear. They're there holding the line against the adversaries, the bad guys and bad girls. So they're obviously very important, super critical, crucial role in protecting your organization. It's somewhere that a lot of people see as a good launching point to a career in cybersecurity because they're needed and they can burn out. You don't have to burn out, but you can't. There is a thing, where people are burned out because they're always on the front line, and just like in a war, right? They rotate the front line out. Sometimes you got to rotate those folks out so they're not burned out. But super critical, super important. We rely on them to see the first hints of an incident that could become a bigger deal. But they're defending organizations every day.
Yeah, and we have a SOC. We both been managers of a SOC. And you said it. I mean, we are the first line of defense. They are the first to see anything weird, anything crazy happen on the network, and they have to take action. So, what does a SOC analyst do in more detail? So, what would you say, John?
SOC analysts, they're getting alerts and events and data because, as you can imagine, you've got all kinds of tools that you're using to set up to detect bad activity across networks, across email, across logs and systems, logs and applications. So you have a lot of data that you're sifting through and sorting through. And, your job is the way I like to describe it is you kind of become a human intrusion detection system because you're like the submarine sonar operator, right? You're on the sonar and you're watching the line, right? I'm thinking of Red October. And all of a sudden you see a blip and, we got splashes, whatever. And you're looking for what's normal, what's abnormal in the normal. You get to a level when you get experience where what's normal, even if it's all the noise, you can pick up on the things that are unusual because you're so attuned to that baseline. So what makes a good one is somebody that just gets really good at what they're monitoring, the thing that stands out, that's unusual, that's weird, and they're very inquisitive to dive in and to drill in to find out more and not just assume it's a false positive. So that's really what they're doing is that think of a submarine sonar operator and they're looking for those blips on the radar.
No, I think you hit the nail on the head there. And one thing I also would like to add is, you're working in a team. That you're a team member in a team of other SOC analysts. Whether you're working in like a day shift, night shift, 24/7, whatever it may be. So you're not there alone, but usually every SOC analyst is kind of looking at different tools, different things. So then once something happens, everybody comes together and then you work as a team most of the time to figure out and investigate what exactly is going on. When anything crazy is on your network or within your organization. So what would you say are some of the things that our listeners would need to do in order to become a SOC analyst?
Well, fortunately, there are a lot of training options that are out there. There are a lot of certifications. And I've mentioned this before, where the need is so big, usually where you can jump into a SOC analyst position without having to be in IT. I think it is, if I could tell somebody, it's probably a good idea to do IT work if you can, because then you understand the baseline fundamentals of that area. And it could be a help desk. It could be desktop support. It could be networking. I think getting some IT experience is a good thing. So you could, if you wanted to go that route, then you're trying to get those certifications that help you get into a IT job, but with a path and an eye to what do I need to get to the security, to land in security. And there's, tons of training options around SOC analysts, which is great. And those are really important because they're covering the skill sets that you need to have. And so we are in a position where we are hiring. We've hired many SOC analysts. We've trained SOC analysts, right? So when they come in, what are we looking for? We're looking for the fundamentals, the skills, the certifications that are help them cover those skills as a good minimum, right? And what do you think? What are some of those things that we look for?
Yeah. So obviously some type of just IT general experience and knowledge, right? You need to know what a computer is. And the interest in wanting to move into cybersecurity, the fact that you may not have any cybersecurity experience potentially, but it is something that interests you. Maybe you've done some research and this is the path I would like to go now in my career. So interest cybersecurity, general IT experience. If you attend boot camps or any sort of that thing, that's fine too, and that's great. They teach you some of the basic fundamental cybersecurity things that you should know before you start a career. In some certifications, the CompTIA Security Plus, the CompTIA Cybersecurity Analyst, even there's like a Certified SOC Analyst for EC Council. And all those certs are great. They give you a good idea, a baseline of what it's like. They expose you to some security tools that you may use, in this position. But I think a general understanding of IT and even a basic to minimal understanding of cybersecurity would be enough for you to potentially land a position in a role like this.
Yeah. And like for example, tool wise and those skills, like a good example is Splunk, right? We've used Splunk and a lot of places use Splunk, but do you have to be an expert or be certified in Splunk? No. Now, if the organization, that's what they use, then that's a bonus that could help get you in the door. But it's really the experience and the skill of using a tool like Splunk to query and find things, build dashboards, build alerts, build out things that you would use as a SOC analyst. That's what we would look for. We would say, oh, okay, well, you've not used Splunk, well, you've used Elastic. Well, really, it's just a different flavor of a tool. You don't have to, in my opinion, have that Splunk. That's the only thing you've done. If you understand the fundamentals and how to use that tool, then that's great. Same thing from a network monitoring perspective. If you've never used Security Onion or Snort or Zeek logs and Zeek and Bro and things like that, well, that's okay. But have you learned and kind of delved into how to do network monitoring? What are some tools? There's so many tools, right? There's the deep dive level of Wireshark and going to that depth, or there's so many things. It's more about have you thought about and learned how to use the tools like that to do investigations, to look for bad things and find out what's normal. That's what we're trying to look for, right? And see if you've gotten some of that experience, ideally, or training that show me, this is where it's not just tell me, but show me. Okay, show me where you could do this. Show me that you use Splunk or a tool like that. Show me how you would use that tool to investigate.
Yeah, and this kind of goes back to things that we've mentioned in previous episodes about when you're ready to apply for a job, looking at the job description, taking a look at what are some of the tools they use, what are they looking for, and then if you have that experience, great. If you don't, then you take that extra step to learn about certain tools, and even do some free intro training that most of these tools offer, and at least understand the tool enough so that when if you put it on your resume, that even if you're beginner level, you can speak about it and just in general high level say, I know what this tool is, I know what it does, this is what I've been able to just play around with and do. All of that shows initiative. All of that shows that you may not be an expert in it, but you know what it is and you're willing to learn. So I think all of that definitely helps. So what, based on our experiences, John, with hiring SOC analysts and going through all of that, what would you say? How can you succeed as a SOC analyst? What will help you succeed and be good at what you are doing and be good at your job?
I think what makes ideally you have some type of feedback. Think about the training that's out there. If you go look at all the training that's out there and you look at what they're focused on the skills that you need. They're offering how to learn how to use this tool, how to use that tool, how to do network monitoring, et cetera, et cetera. Most of them are wrapped around the skill set, which is obviously you need the skills to do this. But I think what I'm looking for and what I think makes a good SOC analyst is when you're able to deal with a stressful situation and persevere. And the more times you have to deal, because it is stressful, right? It's stressful. When an incident happens, things are on fire, right? So you're in the middle of a fire, and how do you think through those things and operate? Now, for me, I just had many, many incidents, unfortunately, but it forged me in the fire of bad things happening, and had to think through it. And actually some of that building that muscle was from IT world, working in IT, getting a call at 3 a.m. at the night, like, hey, our system's down and we need you to come fix it, right? They're calling me in and everything's down. All the systems are down. The whole place is down. And you have to be able to think on your feet and think through the fire while they're looking at you and wondering when we're going to bring this back up, right? So, but it's a skill that I think it's best if you get some feedback, right, from a mentor or somebody that says, okay, here's what I'm doing. Here's what skills I'm working on. But let me see how you operate in a stressful situation, a real simulated like situation, as much as you can. And that's tough because, it's the catch-22, getting experience. But let me give you some feedback on where you are and what I'm looking for in a SOC analyst. And the forged in fire person that can deal with a stressful situation, most of the training out there doesn't cover this. They cover, like I said, how do you get better at the skill set? You can be amazing at Splunk. You could be amazing at Snort or whatever. But when the heat is turned up and you can't think clearly, you could shut down and you're ineffective. So now that might be because you've just never been in that situation and you have to struggle through it, which is part of the deal. But those are the things that I think people could level up faster if they got some feedback from a mentor.
I agree. And we have been in interviews where we put someone to the test and we have high hopes based on their resume. We truly believe they are, even at some points, overqualified. But when they're put in that stressful situation, they crash and burn.
Shut down.
And it's like, wow, really? Like I myself and even you, we're shocked. We're like, wow. I mean, this is something you are going to have to do potentially every single day. Something will happen. You will be in a stressful situation. And this is just a controlled, safe environment. And we're putting you in this situation. It is somewhat stressful. You're in an interview, but still. And that's what happens. I mean, that right there, I mean, it's a huge turnoff. Like, wow, this is not going to work out.
You know what I love about it though? And we're going to I don't care how big your resume is. I had people that had 5-page resumes. I just throw that thing out the door. I don't care. But when you get put in the fire, that's when I get to see. And then we're not looking to see, we are looking to see your skills. But really, you could say, for example, I'm great at Splunk. Well, then when we throw you in this environment and we get you to show us that under fire in a real simulated-like environment, then, oh, no, they never even queried something Splunk, right? So you can put whatever you want to on your resume. But when you put somebody through that kind of experience, it just is the tester for where they really stand. Once I'm done with those kind of things, I'm like, okay, now I really understand where they are, where their gaps are, and what their character looks like, right? And as best as you can. But I love it because it's really hard to find people just based off of a resume and an interview where you're asking questions and they're going to tell you what they want you to hear, right? They're going to answer in the ways that you think. I almost be like, yeah, well, let's get this done. We're going to throw you into the heat. And that's what I mean, it's stressful, but I like it because it is a purifier. It's a tester, of really where you stand, and you can't BS it. You can't fake your way through it, right? It's in the heat and you have to show up. And it sounds harsh, but you're not going to, it's good that you fail. It's what you deal with the failure. It's how do you deal with that failure? Because in a real incident, you have a team, but maybe that thing you think, maybe they're out, maybe whatever, right? You can't control all these variables, but when you put them through an experience where they have to think through it and they have to deal with it, which is a real thing. You never know what you're going to have available. Maybe that tool fails. Maybe it's out. Maybe whatever. How do you deal with adversity is really what it boils down to.
I agree. And one thing I would like to add as well is for all our listeners, right? If you're starting to get into cybersecurity, starting a career, even some that already have experience and you're trying to move up the corporate ladder and just advance your career, be humble. Be humble.
Absolutely.
When you are going into an interview and you have that 5-page resume and you come off like you know it all, and then you're put in a stressful situation, you crash and burn, that tells us a lot about you. If you go into a situation and you're humble, you are honest about what you know, what you're comfortable with, and what you are not, and then you are put in a stressful situation and you do not have all the answers and you are nervous and you fumble and you do this and you do that, that's okay. Because at that point, you were honest from the very beginning, what you knew, what you didn't know, And when you went into this scenario, you did your best. And we can see that, right? Now, the people that have come in with almost zero cybersecurity experience, but have an interest, but they do have a general IT understanding, they come in, they're honest. And I'm thinking of one individual in particular. They come in, they're honest about what they know, they're honest about why they're here and why they're interested, and they're put in a scenario and they try. They at least tried to figure it out, tried to walk through the steps, and they were communicative. They explained, well, I don't really know what this tool does, but if there's a way for me to figure out XYZ, and what if I do this, or have we checked this? They just communicate what they would do or what they envision in their head. That right there says a lot, because we can teach you how to use a tool, but it's the problem solving, the critical thinking, the being able to relax and have control under a stressful situation that really highlights, like, hey, this is someone we want to talk to and someone we want to consider bringing on.
Yeah. So I think that's where I think we'll jump ahead a little bit to this talent war matrix, because that's one of the things we were doing and have done with these scenarios that we throw people into specifically for SOC positions is this book called The Talent War. It's about finding A players, finding talent. How do you find talent? And it really is the short version of it is you can teach skills, you can teach techniques, you can teach tools, but you want to find the individuals that have the character traits you're looking for, that are going to have a high aptitude and attitude that you want to bring on your team. And yeah, maybe it takes a little bit longer to get them there because they don't have as much experience or as many tools, but you see them as a go-getter and they're coming with a passion and interest and these attributes. So I'll go through what these are quickly, but as we've gone through the interview, we're keeping these in mind as they're in the fire. And then it's like a scale 1 to 5. So I from the book, I made this spreadsheet that has the attributes and a scale 1 to 5, and you're looking to rate them 1 to 5 on each person, what they think about their performance. So first one is drive, right? Like how much drive, motivation, passion do they have to be successful, to deal with adversity? What does their drive look like? How resilient they are, right? This is huge. When bad things are happening, everything's on fire. How can you deal with that? How do you deal with that? And being resilient and not just giving up because you don't know the answer, for sure. How adaptive you are. How are you able to think around the problem versus just thinking one direction? And as we've done these kind of interviews, you can see where people can get caught up in the one method that they can think of, and not detach and step back and think around the problem. How humble they are, which is probably, to me, the biggest one, right? Like if they aren't humble, all the things you said, if they aren't humble, then it shows, and you can see where they're not honest about what they don't know, and they weren't honest about what they said they knew. That speaks volumes on how they might be as an individual on your team. Effective intelligence. So this is really like practical intelligence, not high IQ necessarily, but practical, how they might go about solving that problem. It's not necessarily the book solution. It's the thing that the things that get the job done. Team ability, right? Being able to work on a team. So in these scenarios, we would have them work with other SOC analysts, and the SOC analysts they're working with, they know the answer, right? They know they actually have the cheat codes. And I've seen people that have 20 years of experience in IT totally ignore talking to the SOC analyst and not collaborate with them and not ask their opinion and not work together. You're going to be on a team, and it's so telling, like, oh, okay, this person thinks that they have to have all the answers.
It's the ego, right?
Yeah.
They come in with an ego and just ruins everything.
Absolutely. Curiosity, right? In our job, you're a lifelong learner, and always being curious about new information, new techniques, new skills, new whatever, but also curiosity to dive into the root cause of an issue. That's one thing that I think I do really good at is like, I don't take the first solution as just the answer. Like, I'll really want to know why something happened and how it happened, and to dive into it. And then lastly is emotional strength, like how it's kind of tied to the resiliency, like ability to deal with ambiguous, dangerous, high pressure, frustration. What is their emotional strength? Do they break down? Do they, have whatever, like they have a breakdown because they can't deal with that situation. So those are the big things that we look for and grade on in these situations.
Thanks, John. No, that's a great list, and maybe we can share that on our Discord. So if anyone is interested, you can take a look there. So we've talked a lot about what a SOC analyst is, what they do, what are some of the things you can do to be successful, and I want to kind of touch on how can a mentor help you. How can a mentor help you prepare for this role or position? How can a mentor help you succeed and excel? So I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts, John, on how can a mentor help some of our listeners who are interested in going down this route, help them land the job and be successful.
Yeah, I think a mentor would look at where you are. This is what we would do. We would say, okay, and I've given feedback to people that have interviewed with us and said, sorry, you didn't make it. We went this other route, but here's the things that I would recommend you do. Look at where you are. Look at where, you want to be a SOC analyst. Okay. We at least you have a goal in mind. Look at your skill set, give you advice on how to level up that skill set, give you advice on what we would be looking for in this position. I mean, how huge is that? That one piece alone of like what we would hire, what are we looking for when we're hiring somebody? This stuff that I just mentioned, right? This is what we are looking for. And then even like potentially building out and sharing with them ways to watch them walk through a problem. I think that's really one of the big things that we could do and people can do as a mentor is let me watch you walk through this scenario, and then you do an after action. Okay, I see you did this. I see how you did that. Here's what I would recommend you do in this situation if it was me. Here's how you get better at that, right? So that feedback is really a big piece of it, and guidance on here's what we are looking for, here's what we would recommend, here's where you are, and here's how to get there. I mean, you can't beat that.
No, that is priceless. And just to add as well, if you are able to find a mentor in the industry, they may have a connection that is looking for a SOC analyst. They may know someone, they may know a company, they may have relationships with people who may be looking for a SOC analyst who, by you working with this mentor and them helping you along the way and kind of guiding you, they already are familiar with your skills, with what with how you act under pressure or in a certain situation, and then they can speak for you to their friend, their connection, and say, "Hey, I've been working with Steve. He's great. He's trying to get into the industry. I put him through the ringer, and he's excelled. He's done great. He's learned this from me," and that goes a long, long way. There have been many situations where connections that you have had, John, have helped other mentees and students that we've worked with get their foot in the door and get that first job. So having a mentor, not only everything that you mentioned, but could help you, land that first position.
Yeah, I love being able to say, hey, I've got this amazing analyst intern that is looking for the next thing, and they've proven themselves. And if you're looking for somebody, this person's a killer. Like they're killing it. And I'm gonna tell them like if it's coming from me and we have a good relationship, they're gonna take note, right? And I love being able to help people land a position and be a part of their chain and their journey to help build that bridge of a network to another person, to a company, whatever. But I'm not gonna recommend you if I don't think you're there, right? If I don't think you're ready to, because that's me, that's my reputation, and whoever that mentor is, they're gonna really be looking to recommend somebody that they believe in. But that is a huge advantage, right? You get somebody like us recommending you, like that just levels you up to the resume pile. You go to top or close to the top.
Yeah, that's right. Now let's answer another question. So let's say you start a career, your entry level position, you end up as a SOC analyst. Now, what does career progression look from there? So just to start off a little bit, so a SOC analyst position, in my opinion, and I think John would agree, is a great entry level position. If you're wanting to start a career in cybersecurity, I think that is a great spot for you to start. You are like we mentioned earlier, you're at the front line. You see everything. You are exposed to a number of different tools. You are working on investigations from beginning to end, potentially, or up to a certain point before you pass it on to another team or another individual in your team. But you are getting to be in there and see what the network really looks like and what is coming after you. But within certain organizations, there could be different tiers of SOC analysts. You can have a tier 1, you can have a tier 2 and tier 3, and that usually allows for an investigation or an area to be broken up. So a SOC analyst may handle a lot of the alerts, may handle a lot of the entry level work up to a certain point before you pass it on to a tier 2 or tier 3 analyst, and they may focus on something a little bit more specific or be a little bit more advanced in threat hunting or certain areas that are needed to keep moving on with that investigation. So that is a potential route for you to take once you start. Not to mention there are other roles like SOC engineer and eventually SOC manager. Now that is within the SOC, but that doesn't mean that you have to stay in the SOC after your first role. You could branch out to different areas within cybersecurity, depending on what the offerings are within that team and that organization. Anything you'd like to add, John?
No, that's really good. I think that usually that's a typical path you can see in those ways, and maybe you branch into the kind of the manager versus engineer path is a branch that maybe you don't want to be a manager, maybe you do. Do you take on that additional responsibility to lead and manage the team? As an engineer, that's the other route that you can take. That's not necessarily management, but it's moving up in the career. And then there's a lot to do in engineering. There's not just in the SOC. There's so many things there, so you could keep going that direction too. And then like threat intelligence or threat hunting, right, is another avenue that's tied to the SOC that you're helping be proactive to help look for bad things, right, and it's just being proactive. Purple teaming is another thing that you could start branching into. Okay, I've got these defensive skills. Let me build up some offensive skills, and I understand how the SOC operates. So how can I tie that to simulating threat actor activity and make the SOC better at detecting things, right? So there's a lot there to build from from the SOC analyst.
Great. Well, that pretty much wraps up our discussion for today's episode. Remember, if you have any questions, any comments on what we've talked about today, please reach out to us on our Discord. Let us know how we're doing. Give us feedback. We're always looking for feedback. But as we kind of wrap up, any final thoughts, John?
No, I think I get excited about the SOC positions and the SOC analyst position. Having been in that role of being on the front line when something happens, even today, I go back to that mode of understanding how to decipher and deal with incidents. So it's super important, even as a CISO. I think it can be a path to be CISO. I mean, I basically went from a SOC analyst to CISO, and I did a talk on that, where it's possible. So it is super important. You'll see how our people, right? It means a lot to us and how they help defend the organization, and that's part of what you could do in this role if it's something that you're excited about too.
All right. So let's talk about some fun stuff. You got any plans for travel coming up here in the summer, John?
Yeah, we're getting ready to go on a amazing trip to Japan.
I'm so jealous.
I know. So this is actually my second trip to Japan. Obviously, we've got the logo for the podcast, so you probably got a clue. We like Japanese things. We talked about Shogun and things like that. So yeah, I mean, super excited. Me and my family are going on this trip. I've been in 2005, so almost 20 years ago, but really excited to go. And we're going to Tokyo and Kyoto and Osaka and other things around there. But going to do some cool like samurai stuff. Going to do some ninja stuff.
Oh man.
Going to do the girls are going to do some dress up as a geisha and all that cool stuff. So
very cool.
Going to see some castles, eat some amazing food. I'll probably come back like 8 pounds heavier.
Oh man, I'm so jealous.
Yeah. I'll definitely. But yeah, you just went on an amazing trip once in a lifetime. So tell us about it.
Yeah, I did. So my wife and I just recently got back from Egypt. It was amazing, man. I can't express to you how amazing that was. It was a trip we started planning. Seems like a year ago now. Like it's been a while, and it was kind of iffy whether or not it was going to happen with what's going on right now around the world and Israel and Palestine and Gaza and everything. But we did it, so it was amazing. Just the history there, it's just the pyramids, just pictures, videos don't do those pyramids justice. I showed you a picture where I'm standing right next to it, and just the base stones are like taller than I am. I mean, I'm not very tall. I'm 5'7", 5'8", but those things are taller than me. And just to hear about that, the quarry where they pulled these stones from was like 25 miles away, or I think it's 25 miles away. And back in the day, how the heck did they get those stones from one place to the other? And just the history, a lot of things that they were doing at that moment in time that we still do now. And it's just mind-blowing. It really is. I would recommend it to anyone who's ever thought about it, or if it's on your bucket list, do it. It's worth it. Everybody there was super nice, welcoming. Tourism is very big for them, so it is something that they take seriously. And a trip of a lifetime. Absolutely. We're already planning to go back, so There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I would, before you came back and you showed me and told me these stories, I was thinking, I'd like to go and see the pyramids, right? It sounds interesting. But hearing you say this, like, oh, okay, no, this is something that would be amazing to go do. And it's not just the pyramids. There's so many things that you showed me that was like on and on and on and on. I was looking for the Indiana Jones stuff, and now you get the vibe. You're like, okay, Raiders of the Lost
Oh,
Ark,
yeah.
here we go. You know?
Oh yeah. Oh no, absolutely. No, there's so much. There's just so much. And one of the cool facts, or one of the cool things that we heard from our tour guide was, we went there and there were temples and just things that were not there a year ago, 3 years ago. They're constantly excavating and digging up things. And some of the cool stuff that he was telling us was, a lot of these temples, because of the time and they're buried under sand and stuff, are not fully intact. But if they're able to find most of the pieces that would make a certain temple or just something, they use technology to figure out where pieces go and what needs to be filled in to reconstruct it to the best of their ability. And that just blows my mind. And one other thing, was he was telling us that those excavations take priority. So he was actually pointing out where a coffee shop used to be. And he said, there's no coffee shop there now because they were digging and they were finding things. So they tore the coffee shop down so that they could keep digging and keep excavating and keep discovering, which that to me was like, that's amazing. That is, their priorities in the right place, right? They're not worried about the coffee shop. They're worried about the history and what they're, old, what they're, excuse me, what they're discovering. So I don't know. It was amazing. Definitely recommend it.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I'll give an update when we get back.
Yeah.
Tell you how everything went, but it's really cool. Super excited, and cool to see some of the pictures you shared too. So if it's on somebody's bucket list, Steven says, do it.
Do it. Shoot me a message on Discord. I'd love to talk about it some more and just kind of share my full experience and give some tips and tricks now that I've been there on what to do and what not to do. So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks. Yeah. It's something fun to share with y'all. Just some new things that are coming up or we've done recently, and we like sharing more information, just to kind of get to know us a little bit. So thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. And if you've been to Egypt or Japan, and if you have some awesome stories or anything you'd like to add on, please use the Discord. We'd love to chat some more.
Yeah. Speaking of international, so we've got some listeners. We got a listener in Japan that we've connected with. So I don't know if I'll be able to catch up with him while I'm there, but it's awesome. I've talked to him. He's an American guy who's in Japan. And we've got listeners all over. We got listeners in, kind of a bigger presence, and Canada's winning it right now.
Yeah. Hello, Canada. Thank you for listening.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really cool. I've been to Canada, did some cool things in Canada. I love Canada. So yeah, if any of the Canadians want to reach out to us and we can get to know you more, I'd love to know. I'm not quite sure how Canada popped up on the list, but I'm excited about it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So thanks.
Awesome. Thank you all. Remember, sign up to our newsletter and get additional cybersecurity mentorship and career advice sent to your inbox. Check out our show notes for the link to sign up today. Thank you, everyone. Until next time.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode of the Cybersecurity Mentors podcast.
Remember to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so you get all the episodes. Join us next time as we continue to unlock the secrets of cybersecurity mentorship.
Do you have questions or topics you'd like us to cover, or do you want to share your journey? Join us on Discord at Cybersecurity Mentors Podcast and follow us on LinkedIn. We'd love to hear from you.
Until next time, I'm John Hoyt.
And I'm Steve Higuereta.
Thank you for listening.